What differences do you see between religion in America and Lithuania?
The Both peoples are very religious peoples. Americans actively participate. They're probably mass attendance, if we're looking from Catholics, is even higher than we have here in Lithuania. The Protestant churches are also very active, and most religions. In general, America is a very religious country. Lithuania is a religious country in a bit of a different sense. You have a lot of the traditions here, the popular piety, the pilgrimages, the May devotions, the visits to shrines on feast days that are very traditional, and people come to them from all around the country. So they're big events, and it's a different type of piety. Um, and yet the other thing that also plays into that is that the um, the 50 years where religion was suppressed did take its toll. We find that we have a missing generation. Uh, People around my age, their parents were raised in a religious society, but they couldn't raise their children without, in many cases, fear. So grandmothers would teach the basic prayers, but the habit of regular devotion and public devotion um, had faded in those years. And now we find, as we're preparing uh, young folks for the sacraments, for First Communion, their parents are listening in and getting a lot of the things that they didn't get when they were children. And you see a bit of a revival in the family uh, as a place of prayer, which it had before, but it had to be secretive. And so a different sense in that prayer, the ability for people to feel free about their devotion, about their faith.
Thank you. Why did you decide to live in Lithuania?
It was basically an answer to an invitation. I was studying for the priesthood. I came here, and the bishop, whose diocese I formerly belonged to, because in serving the diaspora, the Lithuanians outside of Lithuania, you sign up for a diocese in Lithuania. And that bishop asked me to come here and help out, and it was 1992. Things had just begun to change, and they needed help in a lot of the organizing, and it was a lot of the skills that I had come to seminary with. So I agreed, and I've been here since '92, except for those years that I was in Rome continuing my studies.
Um, from your first visit to the time in between and the other visits to now living in Lithuania, what differences have you seen in the people, the culture? What have you noticed?
The first and foremost is the change of the sense of freedom. When I first arrived, it was communist times. And when I arrived next, freedom had just been opened up, and now Lithuania is celebrating 20 years of freedom. So you see the change in people themselves, because when you live in a free environment, in a free country, you can express yourself, you feel free, you live that freedom. Uh, the change in the growth of responsibility for that freedom has come in waves. Probably the peak of it was around 1989, 1990, when the freedom movement was in full swing. Um, when people start living more comfortably, their responsibility for protecting that freedom sometimes wanes. And so I think you get a bit of that, and part of the challenge for both the government and the church is to remind people of their responsibility, both to God and country.
Thank you. How has living in both countries affected you?
I think anywhere you live as you go through life, it affects you. So I've lived in the United States. I've lived 7 years in Italy and Rome during my studies. I've lived in Lithuania. You learn from the culture that you're in. It affects you. it enriches you. And I think seeing different peoples and different cultures uh, does help you grow to become a fuller person. You can understand that peoples can be separated also by a common language. I grew up speaking Lithuanian in the United States, and here I speak Lithuanian, but the context often differs, and I have to be careful because I can say the same words and they will have different meanings. I learned that when I was studying for 2 years. I studied with the British in Rome, and English spoken by an American and English spoken by somebody from Great Britain is quite different, and you can use the same words and they can have completely different meanings. So it is a sense of growth. The more places that you live, the more experiences that you have, it's always something that helps you grow.
Could you please remember and describe the moment you found out you were to become a bishop?
Um, I found out when the papal nuncio invited me to the nunciature, and we went up to the chapel, and he gave me the official letter to read and let me have some time in the chapel. And so I spent some time in prayer, and because of the jobs that I had, uh, that was always a possibility because I've been working with bishops for the last 15 years. So I know that the job of a bishop is not easy. I know that it entails a lot of not just the nice formalities, but a lot of difficulties that you have to face. But as I've gone through my life from the time that I accepted going into the seminary, I always call it the great adventure. God has all sorts of uh, unexpected surprises for you along the way, and I've just take this as the next step, that God has the next surprise, and you don't know what's coming up next, and you just hang on for the ride and try to remain faithful along the way.
Thank you. How do you think your new duties will affect you personally and your future?
Well, I'm sure it will completely change my future. I'm at this point trying to continue my education. The military, and my new job is as the military ordinary, which is the bishop for the military services here in Lithuania. So it's a completely new culture of the military, a completely new challenge, and I'll be learning as I go of how best to provide the pastoral and spiritual needs of those who serve in the military.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add that I didn't ask?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much for your time.